But we always say it like, look, if there's somebody whose business is not ready yet, right? And there's two different investments, like we can't say we're going to invest in them right now because they're a minority. No, we say, hey, we will support them and raise them up until they're at that level, and then we write the check. All right. So that's what we tell the athletes a lot of times, especially, the women and the women minority athletes. Don't be so quick to write a check. All right. Support first, get them on the level where they're ready for the check. And then when you write the check, you and them will win. So that's kind of how we do it.
Andre, thank you so much. Again, this is Andre Fluellen, 8-year NFL veteran, with your host, Kayla Bradham of Legacy After the Locker Room podcast, powered by Stables Media. Giving a quick shout out to the Make the Money and Run podcast with host Valu Vadaparty. Check that out. Andre, I want to go back to what you said about influence, okay? Because the Legacy After the Locker Room is all about creating hope and possibility, and obviously influence is a big part of that. Speak to the audience just a little bit more, please, about the power of influence, how to market yourself for influence, and what a difference influence can make in making the community a better place.
All right. So here we go. All right, we're about to get into something good now. Okay, so too many times. All right, so check this out. I have a friend of mine. All right, and he played in the NFL, and so he retired in, I think, 2013, and now he's doing a job he doesn't really enjoy doing. All right, so for the last 7 years, he's been pretty much doing a job he doesn't like doing, and so we talk all the time. And he tells me, he says, man, I wish I would have never played football. And I say, why is that? He said, because if I was one of my peers, I would have been in my respective business field for the last 13, 14 years and been an upper level management right now. But me now, and he said, I don't know what to do. And I thought about that really long and hard. I'm like, man, he has a point. But the thing is, we've always been, especially in the sports field, man, we've always compared ourselves by stats, right? By like how much money you make or how many sacks I got or whatever. And we forget that we're comparing ourselves among ourselves. So like, I'm comparing myself against, an Ndamukong Suh. But in reality, right, there's only one Suh on the planet. So I've been comparing my influence against his influence. And that's not fair to me. It's not even right. And so when I thought about what he told me and I started going back to it, I said, hold on, but you have influence. But what's happened is you don't think you do because you've compared it against somebody else's influence in the NFL. And so that's when I started realizing, holy smokes, we got something powerful here. Like, it doesn't matter if I played 20 years ago. The fact that I still played and made it to that level is worth so much in the business world, in the community world. I mean, and say, hey, I was a former NFL player. Can we have a call? They're going to say, oh, yeah, for sure. Right. I can go walk up into any school and say, hey, man, I'm a former NFL player. I want to speak to your kids about making positive choices. They're going to say, oh, absolutely. Right. And so that's the thing. That's the way we use as influence. And too many athletes post-career have said, oh, I missed my window. I'm not relevant anymore. No, you just believe that because you're not relevant according to what you did before in comparison to somebody else. But man, you are more than relevant. And that's what I really try to get people to see.
And Andre, speaking of being relevant, you are still using your influence to do amazing things. I know Mr. Corona messed things up a little bit this year, but you're still doing summer camps for football and cheer for kids, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So even with that, it's like, even with that C virus, I don't even give him a name anymore. That C virus that's out there, right? Like, but even with that, there's still so many opportunities. So I do live TikToks with, I'll find TikTok influencers and I'll get on live with them and just inspire their followers, right? So even though I can't go into schools anymore and do assemblies, like now I can get on TikTok, inspirational TikTok with you and all your followers. You put me on live and they're like, heck yeah, I'll do that. right? And so there are opportunities out there. That C virus thing did kind of throw a monkey wrench in the whole system, but you know what? All right, you can work around it if you get creative, just like we're doing now.
Guess I was on mute. Absolutely. I agree with you. And speaking of influence and your business background and your media background, let's talk about that for just a second. And I'm curious about your opinion. When we're using our influence to reach people right now, is it LinkedIn? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it TikTok? What are you seeing from your end as far as the best way to use your influence?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So if I think about it, I just look at art. So everything, it always starts with who's in the mirror. Okay. Like, every time when I talk to somebody or if I talk to kids or whatever, I'm really, even though I'm talking to them, I'm really just talking to myself. Right. Like I'm just using all the messed up stuff I've ever gone through. And I think about, man, what would I have wanted if I was in this audience right now? So I'm talking to myself. So I say that because people are trying to find out which platform is the best. Realistically, you just got to look in the mirror. Like if you're who can put things together, people just say, wow. I mean, it may be more TikTok and Instagram. But if you're really like just a mind person and you're really into just the X's and O's of business, then it may be LinkedIn, right? Or it may be a blend of some of them. So it's just for me, I use Instagram, I've used LinkedIn for the business side of it, but most of my stuff really is on Instagram, just because it's more visual. And so yeah, but I always say just whatever platform that you're on. I mean, shoot, even if it's something like Twitch, if you're a gamer, like shoot, be on Twitch, right? Like mirror and just be authentic to who you are. Like I can't be, anybody else and try to copy and paste the way that they did it because it just doesn't work. But if you want to do that, find somebody who's like you. Right. That's what I tell people. Look, find somebody who you look out there is like, man, that dude's really like me. Okay. And if he's successful or she's successful, then copy what they've done. It's pretty that simple. I mean, success leaves cues, as the wise sages say. So that's what I look at. That's how I look at it.
Great advice, Andre. And if people want to follow you or see you on social media, go ahead and throw some handles out at the listening audience to find Andre Fluellen.
Yeah, like I said, I'm mostly active on Instagram and Twitter. DOTCOM. I call myself flu.com because I'm worldwide and I always link people together. That's just, and my last name is Flu. So Fluellen. So everybody calls me Flu. So flu.com, my social handles, and then just typing my name on LinkedIn and I'm there as well. So but yeah, Twitter and Instagram are where I'm mostly active.
Fabulous. Thank you. And I want to go back to influence one more time. The listening audience knows that I believe in the power of influence. And the Legacy After the Locker Room podcast is dedicated to supporting Special Olympics. Andre, I'm going to ask you and put you on the spot. Are you willing to help me and Legacy After the Locker Room and Stables Media use your power of influence to support the athletes of Special Olympics?
All right, well, let me think about this real quick. All right, so you're giving me an opportunity to do something good. You're giving me an opportunity to use my influence to do something good. And you're giving me an opportunity to help people who need help.
I had a feeling you'd say yes. Andre, so our audience can hear, what are you willing to autograph and donate to partner with Legacy After the Locker Room?
All right, so I may have to Lysol it before I send it, but I'm going to send a game-worn autographed cleat from my playing days in the NFL. How does that sound?
Andre, that's so cool. And I'm so grateful. And on behalf of Special Olympics, I'm sure that they are going to have a wonderful time with that donation. So thank you. And we only have, Andre, about 5 minutes left. Time goes really fast on this podcast, just because, you have so many good things to say. So I want to give you these last 4 or 5 minutes to really speak to the listeners, share your sage wisdom, your advice, a little bit about the network. But if you had the platform, the podium, and the mic, red carpet, Andre, what would your words be?
All right. You give me a chance to go all out right here. All right. So first, life cues, some life tips in order to live the most successful life that you can possibly live. My goal in life before when it's my time to depart from this earth, I want to say, man, this dude elevated humanity back to its original high performance design and function. Like that's what I want. Okay. So there's some ways to do that. Number one is you have to start rediscovering what time is. All right. So when I say the rediscovery of time, I know they have tried to tell us that a year is 365 days. I'm telling you that is not entirely fact. Okay. Here's how I want you to start looking at time. A year is not 365 days. A year is one day, 365 times. All right. I live by that. All right. It's one day, 365 times. Because what happens is whoever's had New Year's resolutions, everybody has them, nobody keeps them, right? So it's because a year is too doggone big. A year's too big to keep an entire resolution. Hey, if my New Year's resolution is to lose 20 pounds, well, guess what? I can gain 40 pounds by July and say, oh, I left to lose to lose 100 now, right? So it's just too big. So I always say have new days resolution. All right, daily. Life is one day at a time. You got to get that. Number two. All right, here's the second thing, and this is another thing that I live by. I call this Flue's cues. You got to get this, Flue's cues. All right, so Flue's cue number two is whatever you do. All right, now this is gonna be a real one. This I had to learn. Whatever you do, listen to. I'm gonna get close. Whatever you do, don't do it to be seen. Do it to see it. Just like that. Don't do it to be seen. Do it to see it. See, too often we do things to be seen by others. We do it to be validated by others, right? Like people a lot of times get new flashy cars, not so much for them, but for the eyes that get on them. All right. And that's what, if you do it to be seen, you will never, ever, ever have enough. But if you do it to see it, if you want a new car because you just like that car and you want to sit your butt right in that leather seat, hey, I say go after it, right? But because you're doing it because you want to see it. So everything in life, whatever it is that you do it to see it. All right. And the third thing I want to say, this is my third life tip. All right. Flues, cues, third part is in everything in life, in everything in life, you just have to remember why you're doing something. Okay. Like it's just that simple, right? You just have to remember why it is that you wake up. Like I ask people all the time, like, why do you wake up and go every day? And a lot of people can't answer that. You have to have a why, because what happens is in life, and this is how I go about life, right? Like I go about life, I put things in my future that pull me to it instead of me pushing myself to figure something out. All right. So like just have a magnet that pulls you through all the crazy crap that you're going to go through in life, right? If you have that solid why, it is a magnet that will pull you through every situation possible, because you're going to go through some stuff, right? But if you have the why, it makes those things that you go through, when you go through them, you won't feel like you lost. You only feel like you learned. All right. So life is about wins and lessons, not wins and losses, something like that. That sounds good too. But anyway, and again, just for last thing for what I do, I'm thankful for the members of our group, like the athlete members and the business members. My co-founder and partner, Brian Zwerner, who's one of the smartest people on the planet. I've learned more about business and finance from this dude in the last 2 years than I could have learned at 25 MBAs. It's that serious. So as an athlete, I want to tell you, connect with somebody who doesn't look like you, who doesn't sound like you, who doesn't think like you, because you will learn a lot of things about yourself and about how the world works. And then also they'll get to learn a lot of things from you as well. So we can call it that. And I really appreciate it.
Andre, that's really great advice. Again, this is Kayla Bradham. I'm your host of Legacy After the Locker Room. thanking our guest, Andre Fluellen, 8-year NFL veteran,